Black Spider looked fearfully out of her hole and through the thick, sticky web she had spun over it. She spent all of her time in here, venturing out only to eat. Very small and very vulnerable, she didn't have the size, the power, or the courage to compete with other animals. Born with the feeling that she was unsafe, she was eternally careful. Being careful had kept her alive. That's what she thought. One day, Coyote happened by her web. Coyotes, being the gregarious and curious creatures that they are, habitually stick their noses where they aren't necessarily welcome and are known for asking a lot of questions. Coyote stopped and peered into Black Spider's hole. "Why don't you ever come out of there? I come by here every day, and you are always squashed back into that tiny hole. Don't you ever want to come out and stretch your many legs?" Black Spider was terrified. She pressed her body as close to the back wall as she could. She stopped breathing and didn't move. "Hey, come on out," Coyote laughed. "I don't eat spiders." He now had his nose right at the opening of her home. "Ouch!" screamed Black Spider. The second leg on her left side had cramped. It involuntarily straightened and it pushed her out of her nest right onto Coyote's nose. Now it was Coyote who was terrified. He jumped away from the Black Spider's web and started running around in circles, slapping at his nose even though Black Spider had fallen off just as soon as she had hit him. Unknown to him, she was safely on the ground watching his hilarious display. She was so enthralled with his strange behavior that she forgot to be afraid. She forgot that she was away from her refuge, exposed and vulnerable. Was she the cause of all that fear and panic? Suddenly, Coyote stopped shrieking, running, and swatting. He realized that Black Spider was not on his nose. He looked around and spotted her in the yellow prairie grass. He eyed her suspiciously. She, enjoying the apprehensive look on his face, startled him by jumping toward him. He recoiled warily. She jumped toward him again. This time he turned and ran. He ran until he was out of sight. "Did you learn anything today?" It was Earth speaking. She always let her creatures learn their own lessons in their own way, but she could never resist quizzing them to help them realize it when they had learned a pertinent one. Black Spider thought intensely about the question before she answered. She thought about how her fear had always kept her pent up in her home. She thought about how her fear had disappeared when Coyote got crazy. She smiled as she thought about Coyote turning tail and running. She remembered suddenly that she had been asked a question. She didn't have to look to see if Earth was still there. Earth is always there. "Yes," she began a little hesitantly. "I learned that I am not as defenseless as I thought. I learned that when I am afraid, I cannot perpetually hide. I learned that sometimes jumping works." Earth smiled. She showed Black Spider an hourglass. She told her what it was called and showed Black Spider how it worked by turning it over several times. Black Spider watched with the interest of someone anticipating a great gift. This object would have no function without both of its halves. It would be nothing but a strange-shaped glass container with sand sitting in it. And without the constant effort to use them both, one half would remain eternally empty. Black Spider's mind reeled with questions, but she remained silent. Earth continued. "Fear is a useful thing. It also has two sides. As with this hourglass, you must acknowledge the whole to avoid becoming empty." Earth took one petal from an Indian paintbrush blossom and crushed it to make one drop of vermilion ink. She took a single filament from a yucca plant and, dipping it into the drop of ink, painstakingly painted the shape of an hourglass on Black Spider's body. No creature can get everything it needs by behaving exactly the same all the time. Like the hourglass, you must alternately empty and fill. Every time you hide, you must next time jump. There are practically endless ways to do both. When you feel empty, look at the hourglass. It will remind you to try an alternate behavior. When you do something new, you will fill up again. Black Spider looked at the crimson symbol. She knew this lesson was important and would change her life. She had no idea how much.